Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Matsefa Sioka and this is my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please remember to hit the like button. Also subscribe and switch on the notifications bell so you can get notified each time I release a new video. So on today's video guys, I'm just coming in with a very quick video because this is a highly requested as well. I have been getting a lot of texts, or a couple of texts where people are just really asking me how to deal with anxiety, with panic attacks, panic disorder. So I will be really just giving some brief information as to how I've dealt with it and over the years, and how I'm at a point where I think I'm able to manage it quite well. So yeah, I really do hope that those tips do help you. Disclaimer, everything that I will be sharing is not some sort of should not be considered as some sort of medical or psychiatric advice. It's just my my experiences, my opinion. So yes, you can follow up the things that I'm saying with your own research, and also if you're seeing a psychologist or psychiatrist, you can also take it up with your doctors as well. So yeah, let's get into it. So with me, I think I had my very first, I think, panic attack in when was it? I was in the 9th grade. So it was a couple of years back. I remember I was in math class and I just started like feeling so anxious and I couldn't breathe. The one thing I remember is I just felt like I couldn't breathe. I just felt like all the air was just being sucked out of my lungs. But I think they helped me that time, and then after that I was quite fine. And then the attacks really returned in my 12th grade. So I started struggling from grade 12, first year, second year, so about 3-4 years where like I really experienced like consistent attacks, you know, where I just couldn't manage my stress and anxiety quite well. So it has taken some time for me to really get to this point where I don't get attacks anymore, and when I am feeling stressed and feeling anxious, I'm able to handle that quite well. So in grade 12, as I mentioned, I started just having them quite frequently, and the sensation that I get, so now I'm speaking specifically on panic attacks, right? So the sensation you typically feel is that you're out of breath, you can't breathe. For me, because now you're starting to hyperventilate, right, because you're trying to catch your breath, then you start losing sensation in your fingers or your legs. So most of your limbs, you start to find that you can't feel your limbs. I think what else would I face? Like I felt very lightheaded, you know. So you get all these symptoms that really make you feel like you're dying, and I think maybe that's what's so what's so horrible about panic attacks, because you actually literally feel like you're dying. And panic attacks are found for me most of the time with me in my situation, or in my circumstances. It would usually happen if I had been stressing about something for some time, you know, maybe being aware and unaware of it, because stress does tend to manifest itself physically. That's why we then experience panic attacks, or some people will actually experience a physical ailment because of the stress that they have, which they may be aware of or unaware of. So yeah, I found for me, I would get to a place where I would have stressed about something for such a long time that it gets me feeling overwhelmed, and I haven't really dealt with it, and then that's when I get to a point where I would experience a panic attack. So what I've found, I think that time when I would experience these attacks, because they would get so horrible, most of the times, especially in my matric and my grade 12 year, I'd have to be transported to the hospital. That's how bad they would actually get, because even with the people that would be around me at the time, it would be so traumatizing. My attacks actually like really developed to a point where I think at some point they diagnosed panic disorder. And I would have some sort of convulsions as I'm having an attack, you know, that would kind of look like fits and everything. So mine really did get to a point where it was quite gruesome. So that's why most of the time whenever I'd have an attack, they would typically have to get me there. So what I've kind of learned over the years is how to manage the point before I get to having an attack, because I was able to sit down and actually identify that I don't just get attacks. It's because I would have been feeling overwhelmed, overworked, or stressing, or having anxiety about something and having dealt with it, and that's when I then get to that point. So I had to kind of say to myself, okay, because the attack is actually a symptom of the root, let me find out what the root is. So that's how I think over the years I've been able to kind of really manage it well. So whenever I start to stress, whenever I start feeling that I'm getting overwhelmed or stressed or whatever, that's when I kind of find ways to call myself to order, which I'll explain in the video. But I find ways to really just bring myself to myself so that I don't get to that point. So I have been able to, this has helped me actually to be very self-aware, you know, so I'm able to pick up when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I'm feeling overworked. Then I know that, okay, I need to take a step back, you know, do a couple of things which I'll mention just a bit, that will really help me to get to that point where I don't get to exploding, right? So what I've found, things that have helped me actually, firstly, yes, I do want to address this part because somebody had mentioned it to me, and I gave them my honest opinion, and again, I'd really want to put a disclaimer that this is not medical advice, but this is something that has worked for me. When I started my treatment at that time, by the way, I'm not on any treatment right now. I think it's been about 2 years. I'm not on any medical, like as in pills and all of that. No, the only thing I'm doing now is just therapy. So I am quite proud of myself for being able to kind of pass that stage of taking pills and everything. But yes, when I started my journey, I remember one of the pills that they had prescribed was sleeping tablets. And while they worked for the first week, 2 weeks, after that, I really found myself struggling. You know, I found myself, you know, I'd sleep and then wake up like about 30 minutes, after 30 minutes, an hour, and then like I don't have sleep anymore, and then I have to take the tablets again. So where the doctor would have probably prescribed a 30 pills for 30 days, I would finish like 15 pills in like what, 2 weeks, you know, or finish 30 pills, sorry, in 2 weeks, you know, because I'd have to keep on taking these pills so that I can actually sleep. And funny enough, like when I would sleep, I'd feel that I'm sleeping but I'm still awake, you know, like when you're sleeping but you can still feel that, you know what, you are semi up, you know, and your mind is not resting, is not fully at sleep. So that's how they kind of made me feel. So when people ask me about sleeping tablets now, I personally don't really recommend them, especially because they didn't work for me. I found that they just became a bit too addictive, you know. I just had to constantly keep relying on these pills so that I could get enough sleep, or, you know, some sort of sufficient sleep, you know. So I think even before I stopped my treatment, I stopped first with the sleeping pills. That was the one thing I had to kind of go back to my psychiatrist at the time and say, hey, I'm struggling with this because these pills are getting me to ABCD place. So that's one thing that I typically don't recommend. And I know people who struggle with anxiety, I think it is toughest at night because when you're supposed to be sleeping, your mind is now working and you're thinking about all these things and you're stressing and whatever. So what I've found to help me for that part, put on worship music, and then I'll pray and I'll read the word and I'll journal, and really just get into that space. I mean, for me, I think over the years I've really been able to grow into finding peace in the presence of God, you know, and that has really helped me a lot. So I do tend to do that, and then after that, if I still haven't managed to fall asleep with that, I'll put in any kind of music that I enjoy, obviously soft. So I like R&B and old school music and all of that. So I'll put that on, and then I engage my thoughts as well, and then I'll just think about good things, you know. I'll literally force myself to create really good scenarios in my head, you know, think about things I still want to achieve, you know, think about the life that I want to have, the life I believe I'll have, you know. So starting to have those positive thoughts does help, and eventually at some point you then fall asleep, honestly. I know some nights reading a book also does help as well, because then it forces you to, like, reading a book forces you to concentrate on what you are reading at the time. So it then kind of takes your mind off of that feeling of being overwhelmed and stressed and thinking about whatever it is that is making you anxious. So that also does help. I know some people do some meditation at exercises. That has personally never really worked for me, but I do know people who have said, yeah, that's definitely something that does tend to work out quite well. And then yes, I think this was also another tip that I received, having tea with lemon, or chamomile tea with lemon and honey. Yes, honey is the word I'm looking for. I have heard from people saying that does tend to relax a bit. Maybe lighting some scented candles, obviously switch them, light them off when you sleep and everything, so you don't burn the house down. But yeah, those are a few tips that you can do at night. I am starting with this part because I do know that is where it hits most. During the day you're typically quite busy, so it does, just that resting anxious mode, it's something that is not as prevalent as at night, so those are some of the things that you can do. And even if you wake up during the night, just repeat the process, put on your music, open up your book until you kind of get to sleep. And then I also say, because remember, let's just go back, I said that for me, I've been able to kind of be so self-aware that I'm able to pick up and identify whenever I'm overwhelmed or feeling anxious about something. So whenever I get to that place, I do things that I enjoy. I pick up a new skill if I must. I love just going to take a walk at the mall. Child, I love taking a walk at the mall. So I will also just do that if I need to. I remember in Cape Town when I was still in UCT, during the weekends, like, what I would literally do is just take a taxi, go to V&A Waterfront, and just go to the mall, take a walk or sit on the bench, whatever. That's something that actually really did relax me. Even though I think at some point, maybe it was detrimental, but the point is that it is something that I enjoy typically. So when I start to feel like that, I'll do that. I'll take a walk at the mall. I'll do some window shopping. I even do take myself out for a movie, or take myself to the park, or go have a coffee and read a book at a restaurant. So those are some of the things I'll do. So whenever I do pick up that, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling overworked, I literally pause. Like, everything must stop, and I must do something to just help me calm down, recenter, and get back to a good place. So I think the key point here is being self-aware, and is being able to notice when you're feeling anxious and you're feeling overwhelmed or whatever. If you are feeling anxious, then it's important to pick out what are the things making you anxious. Write them down, because when you write things down, you're able to now go back, okay, this is the problem. What are are there any possible solutions? And then what are the possible solutions? You find that in some of those situations, you have absolutely no control over it. And going through that exercise, doing that exercise, kind of helps you to realize that, hey, I actually have no control over this, so there is no point in really worrying about it. If there is something you can do, now you've written it down, you've written the possible solutions, then you're able to now work at those solutions, So writing things down is such a good way to kind of see the things that are, like, to jot down the things that are happening in your mind, and you're able then to take control, take charge over them. So it's so good to be so self-aware, to identify the things that may be getting you to a certain point, so that you're then able to tackle and deal with them before you explode. So yeah, that's something good. And then I think the last part would be when you're actually having an attack. Or when you're about to have an attack, maybe let me say that. I do this exercise. I read this somewhere and I found that it really helps. When I find myself getting to that place, I was actually explaining to someone the other day that, when you're experiencing, or anxiety almost gives you some sort of fight or flight. It's like your brain goes into fight or flight mode. So what I've kind of done or learned over the years is to say to myself, there is no real danger. Tepi, there's no real danger, you know. So I will say that to myself a couple of times until it actually sinks in my mind that, hey, there is no real danger. There is no real danger. You are safe, you're fine, you know, there's no harm around you. There's literally, you're safe, you know. So when I say that to myself a couple of times, it eventually sinks, it eventually sits with me, and I'm able to say, okay, yeah, no, I'm safe, I'm good, I'm fine, you know. So that's one of the things I've done. And then when I'm able to get myself maybe out of that place, then I kind of say, I engage all my 5 senses. What can I see right now? And I'll mention all the things that I can see. What can I touch? And I'll, you know, kind of mention the sensations on my hands. What, you know, what can I feel? What can I smell? What can I hear? You know, so I will list all those things, and that way you engage in your brain, and you helping, like, you almost like helping yourself to get out of your head over what it is that is, you know, kind of getting you to that place. So I found that that really does tend to help quite a lot. Yeah, to just really like engage all of your senses, to engage, you know, to tell yourself that, hey, there is no real danger in this moment. You're safe, you are fine, you know. But yeah, so those are the 3 areas. So it's at night, how to deal with being unable to sleep at night, what to do before you get an attack. So just being self-aware when you become overwhelmed or anxious or overworked. And then the last one is when you're about to have an attack, how to actually prevent it. So I really do hope that those tips helped. That's how I've been able to really manage my anxiety over the years, and you know, get to a place where I don't even take any sort of treatment for depression, for anxiety. You know, I don't take any sort of treatment in terms of, well, I go to therapy, but I don't take like medication and everything. And for me, that has worked, you know. I'm not in any way, shape or form like encouraging you to stop taking your treatment, but I am saying that, I mean, that's something you eventually want to work towards, you know, being able to function without pills and all of that, maybe just sticking to therapy. So those are the things that I found have worked for me over the years. So I really do hope that you liked the video. Please again remember to give it a like, a thumbs up, and also subscribe to this channel. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I will be doing a lot more of the mental health talks as well, because I think it's something that is obviously quite important. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.